Welcome back to Daily Lore. Sorry about that. I had to connect the headphone. It was not connected for some reason, even though it was out of the case, and my ear for some reason didn't connect. Okay, next one is this one, which I've already read it, and
I spent my childhood feeling inferior to my genius older brother who won every academic prize. My parents constantly asked why I couldn't be more like him. Yesterday at his
that's. Wait, what?
funeral, I discovered he'd been paying someone to take his college classes while he battled addiction. My
Oh. That. Yeah. That took the turn. That took the turn I wasn't expecting. Okay, let's listen.
parents found his confession letter addressed to me in his apartment. Growing up as Kevin Wright's younger brother met
I hope they don't blame you for something, because that would just be so stupid.
living in a perpetual shadow. Kevin was the golden child of our family, perfect grades, perfect test scores, perfect everything. By the time I reached high school, his academic trophies and certificates had taken over our living room, a shrine to brilliance that I could never hope to match. My parents, both professors at the local university, beamed with pride at every one of Kevin's accomplishments while regarding my solid B average with thinly veiled disappointment. Why can't you apply yourself like your brother? Became this.
Oh my god, that sounds so stupid, honestly. But he's applying himself, he's getting B's. Ugh.
Soundtrack of my adolescence. My mother would sigh while reviewing my report cards, always finding the one B to focus on rather than the A's I'd worked so hard to achieve. My father was more direct, openly comparing our SAT scores at family dinners and
What? That's so stupid. That's idiotic. Comparing your SAT scores, which mean absolutely nothing anyway. I mean, it might mean something to a college, but in general, SAT scores don't mean shit.
calculating the precise numerical difference in our GPAs. Their message was consistent: I was the lesser son, the underwhelming sequel to the masterpiece that was Kevin. Kevin was 5 years older than me, so by the time I entered high school, he was already a junior at Princeton, collecting academic honors like baseball cards. Every holiday, the conversation revolved around his latest paper publication or prestigious internship. Meanwhile, my acceptance into a respectable state university was acknowledged with tepid congratulations and immediately overshadowed by news of Kevin's graduate school scholarship. I didn't hate my brother. That would have been easier, somehow. Instead, I admired him while simultaneously resenting what he represented. Kevin was never
That makes sense. That just makes complete sense. I mean, yes, obviously you admire your brother because he's your older brother. Of course, you admire him, but you also hate him as well, or resent him, whatever, because he gets all the praise and you don't.
deliberately cruel about his success. He didn't need to be. The constant comparisons came freely from our parents, relatives, teachers, and neighbors who had watched the Wright family prodigy grow up. When I moved into my freshman dorm, my academic advisor actually said, Kevin Wright's brother. We're expecting great things from you too.
Yeah, that would be bad. That is stupid. I hate some. I don't understand. Like, obviously, this is for anybody, any teacher, anybody in higher education, whatever, teachers, administrators, whatever. Nobody likes you comparing them to their sibling or somebody else. That's just nobody likes doing that. Even if you don't mean it as like an insult or anything, most people do not like that. That's just not something somebody would actually like. Either it puts too much pressure on them, or they had that their whole lives and they finally got away from it, but now it's coming back to them in school. Yeah, nobody.
I hadn't even unpacked my bags before being reminded of the impossible standard awaiting me. Throughout college, I carved my own path, deliberately choosing subjects Kevin had never studied. I majored in communications and minored in digital media, areas far removed from Kevin's biochemistry expertise. I joined the campus newspaper, discovered a talent for photojournalism, and eventually secured an internship at a respected online news outlet. For the first time, I felt like I was building an identity separate from Kevin's brother. Our relationship had grown distant over the years, limited to brief interactions at holiday gatherings. Kevin had moved across the country for his PhD program, then stayed for a research position at a prestigious California laboratory. Our conversations were polite but superficial. He asked about my photography, I inquired about his research. Neither of us mentioned the academic chasm between us or the parental favoritism that had shaped our childhood. It seemed easier that way. Last Wednesday, my mother called at 3 a.m.
But obviously, he knows, of course. This is probably it. This is probably when they say he died. But he knows. That's probably why he wrote the letter. Just foreshadow. Just the mention of what they said. Is probably why he wrote the letter. Because it was a lot easier to write a letter than to actually talk, I guess.
Kevin had been found unresponsive in his apartment. By the time paramedics arrived, he was already gone. Apparent cause, accidental overdose. The words made no sense. Kevin? Drugs? My brilliant, perfect brother who'd never so much as touched a cigarette? It had to be a mistake. I flew to California the next day, still in shock. My parents had already arrived, my mother nearly catatonic with grief, my father aging years overnight. The three of us sat in a sterile hotel room, trying to process the incomprehensible. Kevin, their genius son, my unattainable measuring stick, was gone at 32, leaving behind questions none of us knew how to ask, let alone answer. The police had found prescription bottles that weren't his, along with evidence of harder substances. The medical examiner confirmed what we couldn't accept, Kevin had been using for years, likely since graduate school. His body showed signs of...
So I would assume he was always a genius, or he was always smart. But the constant praise of somebody as a kid from their parents is kind of overwhelming to a kid. So as they grow up, in their mind, if they don't get a good grade, you're not going to love them as much. So in their mind, or in reality, they're going to push themselves to try to strive for better and better and better, so they don't, so you don't stop loving them. I'm assuming, I don't know.
long-term substance abuse carefully hidden from everyone who knew him. The funeral was small and subdued. Kevin's colleagues spoke of his brilliant mind and groundbreaking research. Former professors praised his academic contributions. No one mentioned the circumstances of his death. No one seemed to have known him beyond his academic persona. As I listened to these strangers eulogize the public version of my brother, I realized with a hollow ache that I hadn't really known him either. After the service, we went to Kevin's apartment to collect his belongings. The place was surprisingly sparse, few personal items, minimal furniture, walls bare except for framed academic certificates. His closet contained precisely organized designer clothes that must have cost thousands. The kitchen held nothing but protein bars and coffee. It felt more like a hotel room than a home, as if Kevin had been just passing through his own life. While sorting through his desk, my father found a locked drawer. The building manager provided a master key, revealing a hidden chaos that contrasted sharply with the apartment's sterile order. Inside were dozens of pill bottles, medical records documenting several stints in rehabilitation facilities, and financial statements showing accounts drained to near emptiness despite Kevin's substantial salary. Most shocking were the folders labeled by semester, containing correspondence with someone named Marcus. The emails detailed course requirements, assignment deadlines, and payment arrangements. With growing horror, we realized the truth. For years, Kevin had been paying someone to complete his coursework, write his papers, even take online exams. The academic success that had defined him, that my parents had weaponized against me throughout my childhood, was largely fabricated. Beneath these folders was a sealed envelope with my name written in Kevin's precise handwriting. My parents watched in silence as I opened it with trembling fingers, unfolding several pages of my brother's confession. The letter was dated 3 months earlier. Kevin had written it during his last stint in rehab, though he'd obviously never sent it. He explained how the pressure to maintain his perfect academic record had started as early as high school. By college, anxiety and insomnia led to Adderall use, which escalated to stronger substances. By graduate school, he was functioning solely through a carefully managed combination of stimulants and depressants. The academic fraud began when he could no longer keep up with course demands while managing his addiction. Kevin wrote about watching my life through social media, envying the genuine passion I showed for my work. He admitted feeling trapped in a life built on false achievements and others' expectations. Most surprisingly, he expressed admiration for my resilience in finding my own path despite our parents' constant comparison.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. See, this is what I mean. Two sides of a story. Everyone has their own story they spin, or everyone have yeah spin basically. Of course, in his life, in the person that's telling the story, he is the reason he is trying to pick his own path is because they were constantly comparing him to his brother. So obviously, he wanted to choose stuff that his brother didn't do. So this is what made him go on his path. And of course, his brother also he didn't he was jealous of his other brother because he chose a different path.
He called me the truly successful brother, the one who had the courage to be himself rather than a performance of perfection. The letter ended with an apology. Not for his academic deception or substance abuse, but for never standing up for me when our parents diminished my accomplishments. For allowing the comparisons to continue unchallenged. For being complicit in my childhood feelings of inadequacy. He'd planned to come clean after completing rehabilitation, to finally tell our parents the truth about both of us, that his success was largely fabricated, and that my mediocrity was actually authentic achievement earned through genuine effort. My mother collapsed into sobs upon reading the letter, my father supporting her with a vacant expression that reflected his shattered worldview. The perfect son they had worshipped existed only in their expectations. The real Kevin had been suffocating beneath that impossible image for decades. That night in my hotel room, I reread Kevin's letter until the words blurred through my tears. I mourned the brother I'd never truly known, the relationship we might have had without the toxic comparison that poisoned our family dynamic. I grieved for
Yeah, obviously you don't want to compare your kids because that shit is not good for a child's mental health growing up. That's just not good at all.
Kevin's lonely struggle and for the reconciliation that would now never happen. In the morning, my parents and I spoke openly for the first time in years. The carefully maintained facade of family perfection had shattered, leaving only painful honesty in its wake. My mother admitted through tears that they had failed both of us, Kevin by crushing him with expectations, me by never seeing my value. My father sat silent for a long time before acknowledging that his academic obsession had cost him one son's life and nearly his relationship with the other. As I prepare to return home tomorrow, I'm taking Kevin's letter with me. Not as evidence of his deception, but as a reminder of how destructive comparison can be, how the pursuit of an impossible ideal can destroy even the most brilliant minds. The brother I resented didn't really exist. The brother I lost was, in the end, more like me than I ever realized, imperfect, struggling, human. The trophies and certificates in my parents'
Yeah, but we're all human. I mean, yeah, nobody's perfect. Striving for perfection is the most imperfectionist thing you can do. Like there's just like the more perfection you try to be, the less perfection you have, or the less perfection you are going to get. Because there's only so much you can do, and there's only so much you can control. Because being perfect, you could be perfect in certain things, yes, but being perfect in your entire aspect of life is improbable because there are certain things that are out of your control. Like being perfect is fine. Like schedules, those are usually fine. You can follow a schedule perfectly. Those are set time events you could do. Um, Weddings, those are not perfect either. Sometimes there might be faults. Same thing with the same thing with airlines. Sometimes there might be delays. There might be something causing trouble. Yada yada yada. If you want to go outside for a walk, you go walk every single week, every single Wednesday or something like that. It might be raining. It might be cloudy. You don't know because nothing is perfect. So it's kind of improbable to live a perfect life. But you could strive for perfection, but you'll never get it, which would be the most imperfect thing you could be. Fucking shit, man.
Living room will soon be packed away. Kevin asked to be remembered for who he really was, not the fiction we all helped create. I'll honor that request by telling his true story, by breaking the cycle of toxic comparison in our family. And perhaps, by finally stepping out of a shadow that was never really there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Most people put themselves in that scenario, in the shadow. When people compare you, obviously, yes, the comparison is hurts and stuff, but ultimately it's up to you, basically, if you want to be in the shadow of somebody or not. I mean, it might be hard to not be in the shadow, but honestly, I feel like it's just a mindset. Do you feel like you're not as smart as the other person? Do you feel like you deserve to be in the shadow of them? Do you feel like you're less of a person if you're not as smart as somebody else? Like, those are the type of questions, obviously. If you answer yes to any of those, obviously you should see either talk to somebody or something like that. Because obviously you shouldn't feel less than somebody else. You shouldn't feel anything like that. You shouldn't feel like you're in somebody else's shadow. That's just not, you shouldn't feel that. No parents or no guardians should also make you feel like that either. Because, of course, comparison is just not the way to go. It's just not. You don't want to compare somebody to somebody else. People do it sometimes when you're older. They do it just because it's just natural sometimes. Um, but when you're young, obviously you shouldn't do that when you're like, in your teenage years. Okay. I spent my childhood feeling inferior to my genius older brother who won every academic prize. And that was Dead Spies Reddit story React. Hope you have a nice day, a good evening, a nice night, and a good morning. Okay.